Sam here, and I just this second finished watching the Human Centipede Part 2 full sequence. This is the most disturbing film I've ever seen. I do not recommend you go watch this. This film is absolutely disgusting, and there's no need for it at all. The thing with this series, though, is I really do like the director. Both films that he's made have been shot really, really well, and the style that he shoots in is brilliant. Especially the first one. The first one, I absolutely loved that film. I mean, it was a new kind of twist on the horror genre. That film became so popular. Within like a week of its announcement / release, I think maybe the whole of the Western world would have heard about it. And this is Tom Six's sequel, which he bragged about it being 100% medically inaccurate. I can guarantee you it is pretty inaccurate. It may not be 100% medically, but this film is not worth watching. I'm going to say now, this little mini review thing will contain spoilers about the plot of this film and what happens within the film, and also how I felt about certain scenes in the film. And probably the biggest debate about this film is whether it should have been banned in the UK. BBFC have made cuts, and it's still absolutely horrible and shocking that they still released a film like this with the cuts they made. I don't know what cuts they made, but thank God I didn't watch the unrated version, because this is absolutely horrible. So if you've been keeping up with this film, you will know it's based on a person or a man called Martin, who watches the first Human Centipede film and is sexually attracted to it, and makes like scrapbooks and fantasizes about using real people to make a real human centipede. At one point in the film, one of the scenes, you actually is heavily implied that he is masturbating to the original film using sandpaper. You don't see him actively doing this, you just see his face and the sound effects. As I was watching this film, I'm a big fan of horror films. I'm a big fan of really gory films, but I think this is where the enjoyment of those films stops. Like I said, it centers around this main guy called Martin, and his father was abusive to him as a baby, and that's one of the first things that hits you in the film. You don't see anything, but you hear Martin having nightmares about what his dad says while he's raping his son. That was disturbing enough. But you also find out in the film that the mother is ashamed of this boy that she's created. She was also abused. She's a very abusive woman in the film. And about halfway through, Martin attacks her with his centipede, and then he smashes her brains out with a crowbar. Then props up the dead carcass of her body on a chair, continues to eat his dinner, and nothing happened. And his mother's dead body sat on the chair with no face. It's all been mashed up. just to crack the skull. But there were as well moments in this film that made me laugh, chuckle. Moments that the director knows what he's doing. Does it in there just to catch you out, chuckle. He really does just go completely against the rest of the film. I quite like the fact that he's kept them in. Similar to the first film, has a rather dark humour vibe to it, but then just gets seriously fucked up. There's a couple of scenes I want to talk about. The first of which being when he kidnaps a pregnant woman and her husband whilst she's pregnant, and there is also a toddler in the car with them. You see Martin, so you know it's going to happen. It's just inevitable. But it really does hit you when he's smashing them over the head with a crowbar and the kids in the car crying, and then you get the worst shiver down the spine ever when he's comforting the kid in the car who's screaming at him and crying, and his parents have just been killed, and he's comforting him and making strange noises to try and get him to shut up. And he leaves him in the car, and at the end of the film, that is like the last thing you see. Martin looking at the toddler in the car. So that just leaves the door open to number 3, and number 3 is meant to be like a Disney film compared to number 2. And number 2 is the most disgusting film I've ever seen. The second scene I would like to talk about is the construction of the centipede. During this scene, the music plays a really, really big influence to this film. It's really good. It just catches the vibe of it perfectly. And as he's doing these things and making the centipede, you see close-up shots of everything that he's doing, especially him knocking out the teeth of the people with a hammer and cutting into their ligaments and snapping their ligaments. It's not as, the ligament snapping is horrible, but I wouldn't say it's as effective as a film such as 127 Hours. And then you see him stapling these people arse to mouth down the whole centipede. By that time you see a couple of people that were in the centipede die as he's doing these operations. And so there's only 10 in the centipede. Okay, the next scene, this is not a scene you want to be watching, eating chocolate angel delight, let's say. Like the original film, there is a scene where he gets the centipede to poop into the rest of it. And he does this by applying a laxative to each person in the centipede. And then there are shots of the centipede shitting, and because there's laxative they can't control it, and there's just endless shit overflowing out of their mouths with close-ups, and the shit's splatting on the camera, and it's just absolutely disgusting. I nearly threw up at that, just that alone. The whole idea, I nearly turned it off at that stage. I didn't really want to watch anymore, but I thought, well, I might as well watch the end of it. I'm about 20 minutes towards the end. And then this last scene I'm going to be talking about the infamous scene. If you've been following this film, you'll know there's a scene with a baby in it, and the BBFC have cut this scene, but still it is absolutely disgraceful. One of the people that he thinks he's killed, or he's hidden them in a corner under a bag, one of them is the pregnant woman, and she stands up and screams and runs, and there's blood falling out of her, it's pouring out, she's screaming. Marvin's like, at this point, he's like molesting the end of the centipede as it shits on him. And then we've got the pregnant woman's escape. She runs into Marvin's car. She gets in it. She gives birth to a baby. I looked away at that point. I'm not a big fan of birthing films. I also looked away and knocked up when the baby's head was coming out. It's just a little example. When the baby's head came out, I had to look away. I was going, that's really happening. But in this film, I looked away and then looked back at possibly the worst moment. And in this car, she grabs the baby, puts it behind the acceleration pedal, presses, and although you only see it, and it's highly implied, it's cut away completely. As soon as she starts putting pressure on it, it's cut away. And I'm glad they cut that from this film. I would have been so unhappy. I would have been so unhappy if that was in the film. Even the death of a baby in a film is a disgusting thought anyway. But them actually showing you that close up, that is But at the end of the film, I think Martin will be back with part 3, and I'm worried. For the director, I mean, I do like him, I do like what he's doing, but I didn't like this film. I enjoyed the first one, I liked what he did with that a lot. But this film is just the worst film I've ever seen. End of. I'm not going to watch a Serbian film. I'm not even going to attempt to think about watching a Serbian film, because I've heard that's bad. But God, if it's worse than this. I worry for the people that make these films, but I might end up watching part 3 as well. So this has been my review of the Human Centipede Part 2 full sequence. I hope you've enjoyed it. Only watch this film if you are a fan of the genre of torture porn. That's very specific. This movie is torture porn, in the literal sense as well as in the gore aspect. I thought I knew what I was going in for with this film. I didn't. I was not expecting that. Highly shocked, highly disturbed. Yeah, this has been my review. Thank you for watching. If you found it